Alright, so welcome to the second to last module. This one is close to the last module because it is about making videos, and these are just 10 quick tips. I'm not teaching you how to make, documentaries or anything like that. Really the reason that we go over this for a visual arts team is because even though day in and day out you're mostly going to be doing photography assignments, there is that label of visual arts, and so every now and then you might get asked for help on videos. It's okay if that's not something you have a lot of experience in. This is the place to expand your horizons and your skill set. But also, the point of this is also going to delve into the fact that not all videos need to be heavily produced. There's just a couple of tips that I want to make sure y'all are aware of, regardless of if you've got a hidden passion for making videos and you just happen to apply for a photography job, or you're a photographer at heart who would rather never make a video or record. There's some general things at Pirate Media One that I want to make sure that we're all aware of and that we strive for when the opportunity arises where we're asked to make a video or a reporter needs assistance and wants somebody to go out with them to help with the video production. There's all kinds of different reasons that this might come up, but we're just going to look at a couple of those today. Alright, so first and foremost, my biggest thing is always use a lav mic when you are taking video that involves interviewing a subject. So Pirate Media One does have a camera you can check out that comes with a lav mic, but if you'd rather shoot with your own camera, I would still recommend just checking out the lav mic, or even potentially investing in your own, especially if video is something that you're interested in pursuing more of. I think they can be obviously some more expensive than others, but on the cheaper end, I think it's like 10 or 12 bucks for one. So if that's something you want to add to your gear, definitely worth it. Because if you're interviewing people, the built-in microphone on your camera, it'll capture the audio, but it'll also capture the other audio that's going on around the person that's speaking. And sometimes it's not really an issue. You're in a nice quiet spot and you don't really have to worry about it. But other times you'll be interviewing a subject and out of nowhere, somebody will come out and start jackhammering in the background. And that has happened to me before. So literally you can't expect like, oh, well, it's quiet right now, it's going to stay quiet. You don't know that. And it's better to go ahead and have that lav mic on so that way you can have more of an isolated audio and adjust that as needed in the production aspect, especially if something unexpected comes up in the background. It would suck to, lose portions of an interview by outside noise that could have otherwise been drowned out by the use of this lav mic. If possible, when you're using the lav mic, my only suggestion is to make sure that you are trying to hide the lav mic cord, like in these pictures here. This one, they run it up under the shirt, and over here they have the cord running up underneath the cardigan. This is if you're having somebody wear it. Now I know lately the trend has been to use the lav mic pretty much as a little back and forth microphone, especially in a lot of videos that I've seen on TikTok, even just videos our students have created here. So certainly if you're doing that, that's fine. We can see the cord. It just is what it is with that. But if you're attaching it to somebody, just try to keep the shot clean by hiding the cord as much as possible. When you're filming, just a reminder, like with your photos, your subject does not need to be centered when filming. In fact, it's better to have them off center and give them some breathing room in whatever direction they're facing. You just like with photos, again, you don't need as much room to the side that they're not facing. Here you can see we only have a little bit to the right, and then we've got all this over here to the left. Now, usually when you're interviewing subjects, you're going to be a bit closer, feel a little bit more like you're actually talking to this person, but this is a good example of the grids and how that rule of thirds is going to look. And this is an example right here, same thing with the rule of thirds, but we're at a more common interview distance. And the reason I say that is because in this case, it's definitely feeling a little bit more conversational. You're on the same level as this person, and that's the thing that I want to get across with this side. If you are interviewing people on video, certainly working in higher lower angles have its benefits in photography and videography, but if you're doing a general interview, make sure your subject is sitting and you're sitting too. If they're standing, you're standing. We don't want to have this big difference in height where somebody is having to look up at you while they're talking. It creates kind of for an awkward view. It should feel natural to your readers who are watching it, because presumably the conversation that you had with the source felt natural and wasn't forced. And so it doesn't matter who the source is. You can see down here with President Joe Biden, we're at the same level with him. There's no we're above or we're below kind of level. It's not to say with your B-roll shots that you can't play around with those higher and lower angles, but we will get to that in a second. Just a quick reminder to double check your aperture. We have had some videos coming in the past where they were just completely blown out, and this is not easily fixed during post-production. There are certainly salvageable elements, and some blowouts are a little bit more manageable than others, but it's definitely not something that you want to mess with. So just make sure that you, as the person who is comfortable with your camera, you're just checking your aperture, especially if you're interviewing somebody and interviewing them for long extended periods of time. You do not want a 30-minute interview on camera to then find out that it's blown out, and we're going to have to find a way to obviously still be able to use the audio. In this case over here, the students had this long interview with him, but it was blown out. It just wasn't comfortable to look at on the screen, unfortunately. But fortunately for her, she had plenty of B-roll, so she only ran a couple of seconds just to introduce him as the speaker, and then ran B-roll that they had gotten of him in the library, walking around campus, things like that, throughout the rest of the video. And on that note with B-roll, it can save you, so get plenty of it. If you're not familiar with B-roll, this is just the shots that can be used to intercut other clips throughout the storytelling process of a traditional news package. And obviously B-roll can be used in all kinds of videos, but in a newsroom, I do reference news packages quite a bit. And B-roll can be of anything. It certainly is good to get candid shots of whoever you've interviewed, just out and about, doing whatever. If you're at a restaurant and you interviewed one of the patrons, you know, get a B-roll shot of them sitting at their table, get a B-roll shot of them checking out at the restaurant, or flipping through the menu, in addition to the interview that you've already got of them. But to add to that, I mean, you can get B-roll shots of waitresses serving other people. If there's unique decor in the establishment, definitely getting shots of that. Chefs in the kitchen, ladles, soup ladles on the wall. It doesn't matter. Get whatever you can. I would say, generally speaking, at least come back with 20 B-roll clips. You can get as many as you want, but it's good to have options. With that, I just recommend that they are at least 10 seconds each, and it's fine if you need to adjust the camera while filming, but do not touch the camera for another 10 seconds. Just get a standard shot and then move on. And just to do a quick view of B-roll, I'm just going to play a clip here from this WITN piece, just in case you're unfamiliar or not really sure what that might look like.
More and more books across the country are being taken off the shelves, and Eastern Carolina is no exception. According to American Library.
So hopefully it's picking up the audio, but she's speaking, and as she's talking about Eastern North Carolina, we've got a shot of Shepherd Memorial Library for a couple of seconds. We've just got these books in the library.
Association, there was a 20% increase in challenged books this year compared to same
A shot of the aisle. They don't have to be mind-blowing.
time last year, which marks a record number of books.
We've got people at the library, just a wide variety of wide shots, close-ups, things like that, just stuff that you would want to work with. And especially if it's mentioned in the voiceover, that's going to be something, or you know that's something that the reporter's going to hit on, or there's something that can represent what's being talked about in the script, then in that case, definitely get shots of those. When possible, especially if you're working on a planned package, use your tripod. If you think you have steady hands, I can guarantee you that you do not. Get all of your shots, including B-roll, while the camera is attached to the tripod. Now, I will say the exception to that, if you want a ground shot, it's okay to set the camera on the ground as long as it's still protected, because there's certainly been cool shots before of students walking on the mall and you get all their like feet. There's time and place for it, and that's totally fine to play around with that and still experiment with the angles and things. But definitely, use that tripod that we've got. Now, if you don't have a tripod, I would say it's definitely okay to film with your iPhones, Androids. They tend to have a pretty sophisticated stabilization software in between. I'm always shocked when I film on my phone these days because I remember when things used to be a lot shakier. I'm not going to say that it's perfect, but the only thing is if something breaks out in front of you and you're trying to get footage for the newsroom, the only thing I can offer is, obviously, as with any journalist, use what's available to you to capture the story, but brace your elbows if you need to get a stable shot. But of course, if you forget, or especially if it's something intense that's happening, or whatever, just do the best that you can. But if it's planned, like I said, we've got a tripod you can use, so definitely use it. All right, with your video packages, you could easily have 30 minutes of interview footage, but videos should be no longer than 3 minutes. Ideally, I would say 2 minutes or less, and honestly, like 1 minute and 30 seconds. It'll range just depending on what the topic is, but just know your audience and know that for many, 3 minutes on TikTok videos is too long. So for myself included, oh my gosh. So I'm not picking on anybody, but just keep in mind your audience. They don't want to sit there and watch a 7-minute video unless it is really, really engrossing. But basically, with your 30 minutes of footage, the best way to tackle this is going to be by going through and transcribing your video. You do not have to transcribe the whole audio, but you should be watching out for clips that you recognize can be easily cut, and then tell what you need them to tell through both brevity and clarity. Sometimes you'll have a 30-second quote from somebody, but elsewhere they kind of wrapped it up in 5 seconds. That may be a better quote to use in that instance. Once you've got the transcriptions of the quotes that you think you would want to use, mark those times above it, and then when you're done reading through everything you have, then you can go back and highlight what you want to actually pluck when you're producing the video. Because you might like a lot of the quotes. I like a lot of the quotes that people give me, but that doesn't mean that they're all going to make it into the video. But definitely transcribe the ones that you like or want to consider. And this is just an example. So here, this was, if I scroll down, this was almost a 20-minute interview. I think it was over 20 minutes, but after the 17-minute and 30-second mark, it kind of started repeating itself. But you can see here, we started transcribing from 328 to 349, and then right after we had another quote, but then you can see in some places that we jump around. So this one went from 5 minutes and 11 seconds to 6 minutes and 4 seconds, but then we don't pick up again until 7 minutes and 57 seconds. So again, you do not have to transcribe the whole video, just things you think you might want to use. In this case, we took quite a bit more because this was for a client that had come to Pirate Media One for their department, and so there were a lot of angles that we were trying to reach and a lot of different interviewees, so we wanted to be able to compare and contrast who had the better quote to work with for certain topics. But this is just an example, and you can see here we ended up highlighting these to use in the video. With your voiceover, typically I would say in y'all's case for photographers, you're going to be working with reporters who will be tasked with writing a voiceover for the news package. If you decide to do a whole video by yourself, which is totally fine and encouraged, you are going to need to write a script and record the voiceover. A script should be concise and to the point. You should let video interviews do most of the talking. You're just setting up the story and the quotes. Voiceovers can be recorded through your computer or on your phone using the Voice Memo app. If you're gonna use the Voice Memo app, Just make sure you're not super close to your phone or microphone when recording, or else it's going to pick up all the breathing and lip smacking, and it sounds awful. But on that note, we do have equipment in the office that you can use, plenty of microphones, so certainly, and soundproof rooms, so feel free to come in, especially if you're working on a project like that. All right, consider using white noise with your B-roll. So a lot of times people will take the B-roll out, or the B-roll's noise out, and you don't want to do that because it creates kind of an echo chamber with the audio that you're running over it. So certainly a good idea to keep some of that white ambient noise in the background, just so that way the audience isn't just listening to your voice. And here is an example.
The periodic movement from class to class may get a little hectic.
Ladies, let's go!
But in the Lee County School District,
All right, man, going good? Yes. All right, well, I talked to you, man, okay? Be safe.
there is always a school resource officer, or SRO, standing by to keep the peace.
So you can hear that audio just kind of ducking in the background. Again, so we're not creating just an echo chamber of the voice over. So a good example there. And this one was from actually a high school staff. So out there doing good work too. All that being said, not all videos need to be heavily produced, voiced over, or edited. In the next module, we are going to be looking at different multimedia storytelling techniques, and some of that includes looking at different ways to utilize video. But for you, just a day in and day out way to kind of incorporate this as you can. If you're out on a photography assignment covering an event, go ahead and grab 15 to 30 seconds or so of interesting footage from the event. Just a shot of the crowd can be helpful in telling the story. You're already there, so go ahead and go that extra mile. It doesn't take much time out, and of course, if it's strategically planned, can really work out. But there are other things to capture. I mean, we've had, reporters in the past who got a picture or a 14-second clip after doggy jams of people just sweeping trash, and that is awesome. I know you don't think much of it when you're looking at it from, just a grand scheme of, video, like video is usually so cool. But even the smaller, less thought of moments can be great for the visual aspect of storytelling. So don't discredit those moments. Look for those moments. Even, football games, winning moments, or if we're getting ready to lose, take your photos as needed. But then, of course, as the crowd's like going wild, getting shots of that via video, those are all going to be great options to have when you return your assignment to your visual arts editor. And that concludes today's lesson.